it off to Aaron. You're good to go, Aaron.
Thanks for doing this presentation. I hope you're enjoying the content so far. Today, I'm going to look at some of the innovative ways that AI can be used in archiving libraries and preservation. And I'm going to quickly start out with a quick background about myself and then go through some of the major areas that AI can be beneficial to our work in libraries, including some resources like writing code and transcription. Then close it out with a look at using AI to create virtual exhibits before opening it up to questions if there's time left over. So I joined UAB a little over a year and a half ago, and I'm the digital curation librarian. I primarily work with our special collections and provide greater public accessibility to those collections. And before that, I worked as a digital archivist in Florida. So considering that this is an AI conference, I probably don't have to say, but there's a lot of discussion surrounding AI, and just about every company out there is trying to find ways to incorporate AI into their products or highlight its use. But how do we as librarians use these tools in ways that are ethical and responsible and, again, useful for the work that we're doing, and while maintaining that trust and accuracy that we're known for. So there's a ton of tools available, and a lot of them are not quite there yet. A number of them are really impressive. And finding those tools is an important first step. So this slide is kind of an example of a tool that I don't think is really there yet, but has some pretty good potential. To create it, all I did was type in AI and PowerPoint Designer, provided the photo and the layout, the organizational structure, everything else. And it is somewhat related to AI. It looks kind of techy. It looks maybe like a computer chip type thing or a brain, but really it has nothing talking about. So it's a really easy option, but it doesn't add any depth. It doesn't really connect with what I'm talking about. And kind of along those same lines, before I created this slide, I was planning to create a collage of like AI tool logos, just to give an idea of the breadth of these tools. And so I used an image generator, or two actually, Adobe Firefly and Deep AI, typed in that search term, collage of AI tool logos, and these are my results. Neither of them is super useful. Neither of them really helps and provides a usable response. And so, I think there's a lot of potential here, but in some of these cases, I don't think they're quite ready yet, especially when you can very easily type that same search term into Google, and the first couple of results you get are exactly what I was looking for. So kind of moving into the areas where I think AI is really helping out, and these tools are adding a lot of benefit and can be used now. One of the main ways, especially with like a chatbot, is being able to write scripts, write code without any knowledge of how to do that, and being able to generate short descriptions that you can use for different things. So in terms of scripting, we regularly use Python scripts as part of our work, in some cases on a daily basis. And I don't know how to code at all. We have one person on our team that does, the rest of us don't. And so when ChatGPT and other AI platforms came out and opened up the ability to generate code via a text prompt, it opened up a whole new world of possibilities for me and the rest of my team, my department. And it can be really simple. Both of these scripts shown here are incredibly simple scripts. The one on the left looks at a list of folders, extracts any PDFs, and places them into a single folder. And the one on the right copies of all of the file names, including their extensions, and places them into an Excel sheet. Both really simple, both things that I could have done by hand, but these took 5 minutes to generate, 5 minutes to test on sample data and make sure there weren't any errors, and 30 seconds to run, versus trying to do it by hand, which would have taken me hours. And then on top of that, I now have these scripts available and usable. And so next time I do this, I can avoid all of that prep time and just run it. So huge time saver. Got rid of a lot of my kind of busy work. And yes, there are other ways I could have done this, but this was just really simple and easy. Like I said, these are both really simple scripts created through ChatGPT. You can also create much more complex scripts. And as an example, I needed to create a web scraping script, and I had a lot of extra complications. I needed to be able to get past a login screen, extract data from over 50 different fields, including text, drop-down bubbles, fill-ins, pulling attachments off of sites for like JPEGs and PDFs, and going across multiple tabs within a single web page. And I needed to grab tens of thousands of records. Never would have been able to do that by hand or really in other ways. With this, I was able to at least start out by going to ChatGPT and again, trying to create that script. Ended up running into kind of a logic loop when I did that. It just kind of sent me around in circles. And so I looked for other tools and found GitHub Copilot, which is also based on OpenAI's LLM, but it's more focused on coding. And it's available to researchers for free, or educators for free. And since then, since I created this and was using it, there are a lot of other options now, including the GPT store that has Python specific GPTs that you can also use. But with these scripts, I was able to create a few different scripts that accomplished the task and gave me the results I was looking for. And so I was able to extract that data and do this research that, again, I would not have been able to do without a tool like this. So I think that's kind of one of the most impressive ways that I've interacted with these tools, and the one that's changed what I do the most. But again, like I said, there's a ton of other tools out there. I'm just going to highlight a couple of them. Transcription, hugely important to what we do, provides way more accessibility to our content, and makes it more searchable. We use Adobe Premiere Pro for just about all of our media content to add closed captions and transcripts. And if anyone here has tried to create a transcript from scratch, you know how long it takes, how tedious it is. Tools speeds up that process immensely and gets you 85, 90% of the way there. There are a number of other tools available, including Whisper AI, which I've not personally used, but it's a tool that you can use for more complex, specific sets of content and add in some context so that it gets trained and it learns and it provides better result. If you don't have access to Adobe, products like YouTube are also available for free. And then Zoom was really helpful for things like oral histories or interviews with real-time transcription and closed captions. So kind of probably the best known way of using AI tools, chatbots, is by writing text, writing paragraphs of text. And I think that is a valuable tool. I use it for that for things like social media posts or small blurbs. And the way I tend to use it is adding fragments of sentences, little bits of ideas with parameters around what I'm trying to accomplish. Having it generate it usually won't actually use the result. But the benefit for me is that I have something on the page that I can work with. So I'm not sitting there staring at a blank page, trying to figure out what that first sentence should be and trying to make it perfect. I can look at what was generated by the AI tool and say, essentially, that's not how I wanted it to sound. That's not what I wanted to say, and start writing. And so it ends up saving me a lot of time, again, staring at a blank page. One of the areas that I'm most excited about is HTR, handwritten text recognition. There's been a ton of advancement in this area in the last few years alone. And given how much content libraries, museums, archives have that is handwritten, this has a huge potential to provide tons of research opportunities, tons of accessibility opportunities for what we do, while increasing interest. Being able to search this content with a much higher degree of accuracy, and having this material digitized, it just opens up the possibilities for researchers to all of this material in a huge way. And so I think that's a huge opportunity for us and something we should be exploring and starting to prepare for by digitizing content that we think will be good candidates for this. The last area I'm going to touch on here is research. In terms of scholarly academic research, unless you're specifically looking at AI, I would tend to avoid it in definitely the writing process, just because depending on where you're submitting it, they may not even accept that as a publication from you. And there may be some more stigma and other issues around that submission that will reduce its chance of being accepted. But you can use it for, research for an exhibit, internal research, helping out other areas like that to give you a better idea. And there's a number of tools in this category that can also be really helpful. One that I have used a few times and have some good experience with is Research Rabbit. It's similar to like a Web of Science, where you add some citations that you've already found, some sources you've already found, and it will find connections between those sources, and kind of expand out so you can look and discover new resources. And I've used this to find resources that I haven't been able to find in other ways. So the last one I'll mention is a product called Assistant by Skype, and there's a number of other ones that are pretty much the same thing. Just going to highlight this one because it's one of the ones that I tested. Most of these are paid platforms, just to be aware. Some of them do include free trials or a few free searches before you have to pay for it, including Assistant, which is what I did. But essentially what they do is you enter a research question and it provides a response with citations. And, unlike some of the earlier days, the citations are real, they're not hallucinations. And so I tested it out, put in a question that I knew the answer to. The response I got was a lot better than what I was expecting. The citations were all real, they were accurate, they were relevant, they were critical to answering the question. But I will say that it missed a lot of really important citations, and because it missed those, the answer it gave would have changed pretty dramatically if they had included those. So all that to say, if you do choose to use a product like this, make sure it is not the only thing you're looking at. Make sure you're actually checking the sources and other available sources through other methods, because it will not include everything. You're going to miss a lot. And if you don't, your research is going to be lacking. So again, that's just a brief highlight of some of the most useful tools that I've found related to libraries and the work that we do. I'm going to highlight one other area, and that is virtual exhibits. This is a new area for us at UAB. We are trying to create virtual exhibits of some of our historical collection exhibits. And as part of the product we're using, which is called Scenario VR, it has two options for creating these scenes. One is uploading your own photos or videos and creating these immersive VR environments. And the other is using an AI wizard, which is nowhere near ready for like realistic use. I've seen it used for some games and some kind of little things, but it doesn't fully understand what you're saying. It has a pretty big limit on the number of characters you can use, and you can't edit or modify it once it's created. So you have to restart from scratch. So to kind of test it out, and for this presentation's purposes, I tried to create a exhibit based on a description, museum exhibit focused on AI technology. Pretty basic, pretty simple, definitely not using all 600 characters, but this was the result. So again, kind of like PowerPoint Designer, it feels like it's almost there. It gives you some technological elements. You got computer screens, you've got a robot, but it doesn't really have much to do with AI. One feature in here that I do like a lot is that it included the light bar at the top, which I think is a good, museum component that I would not have expected it to catch. But all the background photos really have nothing to do with anything, and they're curved. And then if we pan over a little bit, we've got a giant robot without any real context. And the lettering behind it is supposed to be words, but it's not really good at creating words or letters. And so it just pretends to. And that's something that has not really improved for this. And just to give a kind of comparison, on the realistic side, this is what a tour could look like. These are 360-degree photos, so you can go around in a circle, but you can explore an exhibit, you can add interactive elements, and you can do a lot more with this than you can with the AI wizard. I think it does have future potential, especially if you can add AI created components to a scene. But for now, again, it's a product that's not quite there yet. So just to conclude, there are a ton of tools out there. Big part of the challenge is finding tools that fit your needs and work the way you need them to work. Once you do, you can do things quicker, you can do things easier, you can focus more on different tasks that you need, more academic tasks. There's a lot of potential, but you have to be careful and check your work, check for errors, check for accuracy, and just make sure you stay on top of that. So with that, I will say thank you. And I'll put this up briefly if you have any questions, but I know that the next one is about to start. So I'll stay and answer any Q&As or any questions that come through the Q&A.
Thank you, Aaron.